Next up on our list, Oscar Delp, tight end out of Georgia. Rick, he wasn't in your top 5. Did you watch Oscar Delp by any chance?
Yeah, I watched him a little bit. There was flashes, but I didn't, I'd like to see a pretty good amount of plays just to see what he's going to be like as a true full-time starter without Bowers. And I understand Bowers missed some time, but I do recognize this kid's athletic skill set in the passing game. He's another long linear tight end. The one thing I thought he had some run after catch ability. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me, he does need to get stronger as a blocker, but we said the same thing about Bowers when we were talking about him last year at this time. But this kid has some grit, and he'll try to get after you and fight you a little bit. He just needs to get stronger. But I just didn't see enough to put him in the top 5 right now, but I can very easily see by the time this is said and done that he's in the top 5 when we're talking about this at the end of the season.
Yeah, he was targeted just 29 times last season, obviously in part because when Brock Bowers is on the field, Brock Bowers is the guy you're throwing the ball to. Had one drop in those 29 targets, 6'5", 245, similarly listed weight as Colston Loveland. We'll find out exactly if that's true or not. And he played almost half his snaps in the slot. What'd you think, Mike?
Yeah, I thought he was probably, of all the guys I watched, the best athlete. Like, I thought from a pure size, speed perspective. And yeah, he's undersized, but there's not a lot of fat on this guy. Like, he's 245 and he looks as cut up, and the body habit is as good as any of these tight ends. So I think there's room for him to fill out, especially being only, a rising junior there at Georgia. So that's what wins at the NFL at tight end, right? It's why, teams covet the size and speed at the tight end position, because to produce like a wide receiver, more often than not, you better be able to move like a wide receiver. So he's one of the few in this class that can. And so it wouldn't even surprise me if, filling for Brock Bowers, if he has a big year, this guy gets into the first round conversation. Like, that's the type of caliber athlete we're talking about. But to Rick's point, he barely played, right? He was a backup last year. Obviously, Bowers did go down for a few weeks. He did step in, but we really haven't seen enough to know for sure. But I will bet on that kind of athlete. I think it was the top ranked tight end in his recruiting class as well. Like, there's a lot of reasons pointing to a big year from this guy.
Yeah, as you point out, he's also a junior. I said he was a long starting tight end. He looked fast on tape. Good athlete. He uses speed and leverage and body to win at the catch point. We talked about the 29 targets, but the athleticism and the speed are huge. Hey, Rick, how common or uncommon is it to see a young player who doesn't play a lot at the tight end position and then switch flips and they go from just a guy on the team because you're on a stacked Georgia team to a guy that's a top 50, top 75 player?
Yeah, I don't know what switch flips mean, but trying to decipher that definition.
Turn on the kerosene lantern you used 200 years ago. Does that help?
Yeah, well, a lot of guys switch flips. Yeah, I do recognize, like I said, before I want to stamp him as a top 5 guy, I recognize the top 5 flashes that you see. And now's the time where he's going to be the number 1 tight end and he's going to get his opportunity to shine. So, and he's got a really good quarterback, the number 1 quarterback on our board coming out this year in Beck. So, there's no reason why he shouldn't switch flips or flip the switch like other people say. But I would say, yeah, this guy has all the traits. It's just, you just see pieces of it. And I just want to see it consistent week in and week out.
Mike, if you haven't noticed, and you would have to be dead not to notice, Rick laughs at his own jokes more than anyone else does. And by the way, switch flipped, F-L-I-P-P-E-D, that makes sense.
That doesn't make sense to me. So
okay, well, let's clarify that. Also worth noting, and Rick, I don't know if you saw the SEC media days, but our guy Carson Beck's catching some heat for the way he dressed up. Had on like a Carolina blue sports jacket, then he had a mock turtleneck on with a chain underneath it. Rick, you threw me off my game. I forgot to do the comps for Oscar Delp.
Yeah, well, you can always flip switches or switch flips, whatever you want to do.
All right. Even producer Harry's taking shots at me in the rundown about my comps. So we're at that point. You didn't have a comp for him, I don't think, unless you have one in the Rolodex, just because he wasn't among your top 5. But I can give you the guess which comp we had game.
Yeah, I like to doing the guess game.
This is a layup. I don't know why I didn't think this through. If producer Harry joked if this is a drinking game, we'd all be dead. So Pat Fryermuth or Kellen Winslow Jr.
I'll have Mike guess at that one.
Drink.
It's a little different
All right,
players.
fair enough. Man, Kellen Winslow Jr. That's athletic though. I mean, Fryermuth's a good athlete, but he ain't Kellen Winslow Jr. athletic coming out.
I think that's what Delp could be, honestly.
Yeah.
I see him. I see low 4.5 kind of guy.
Ooh. He's a good player, and it's going to be fun to watch him in that offense and see how he develops for sure. Georgia plays at Alabama in late September, and then mid-October they face Texas. All right,
Mike's
next.
trying to get up on the social media comparisons. That'll be up all over the place. Kellen Winslow Jr. coming out.
Not off field. Not off field. Just on field.
Yeah. There's
Not
so many
parking
ways
lot.
I could go with that. I won't go with any of them because I don't want to get in trouble.